Hello, and welcome to today's yoga question. I'm Lizzie Lasater, and I'm here with the lovely Kate Smith Jamison. Hi.
Hi.
She is an Ayurveda yoga practitioner and goddess who I would just recently had the privilege of meeting on a retreat in Santorini, Greece. So, Kate, what I loved, you sent me your newsletter, which is just so generous and full of amazing tips. I'm going to put the link for everyone down in the YouTube notes. Tips about how to integrate Ayurveda in a real practical way into our lives as yogis and really as sort of practical self-care, I would say. So today I want to talk to you about the seasonality. That's a very integral part of Ayurveda, as I'm learning from you. So one of the quotes you say in your newsletter is to stay balanced in summer. Ayurveda emphasizes the importance of cultivating cooling, calming, grounding, softening, nourishing, and expansive practices. So I love that sentence. All those words are like what I want to be the descriptions of my life. How can we do it? Give us just whatever off the top of your head, some ideas. What can we do?
Okay. So I guess before diving into that, I think sometimes it's helpful to think why we're thinking of these specific words when we're talking about keeping ourselves balanced in summer. So Ayurveda, which means science of life, it's very much a lifestyle practice. And it looks at how the different elements of space, air, fire, water, and earth all manifest within us and in all living beings around us, okay? So when we think about the element that is dominant in summertime, it is the fire element, which is associated with Pitta dosha, okay? So what are the doshas in Ayurveda? So these are one of the main theories within Ayurveda that we look at how the elements rise within us. So space and air are Vata dosha. Mm-hmm. Pitta is fire and a little bit of water. And water and earth are related to Kapha dosha. So is this too much?
No, this is perfect. I was just saying kapha, 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 kapha,
kapha. So we think about summertime as when the light is peaking in the northern hemisphere. We just spent summer solstice together. So we've just passed the peak of light, okay?
Yeah.
And so we are tending to the greater manifestation of the fire element within nature. Okay?
Right.
And so all of us will be dealing with this particular phenomenon, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own natural constitutions, which you can discover through a consultation in Ayurveda. And so those of us who have a dominant Pitta dosha, more fiery types, for example, and we could talk about all the different characteristics of fiery types, but let's just stay with summer for now. So those of us with dominant Pitta dosha will also have to tend to this fire element in the summer, probably even more, but it is something that affects all of us, okay? So as we're thinking about, and really all we have to do is open our door and look outside and go, okay, so nature is at its peak of growth. We have our longest days in the northern hemisphere. And these are all the things that send us signals to be more active. So we need to tend to this at this time of year. And so how do we do that? So, this is a time where taking time out, slowing down, going on holiday, doing what you love with who you love. Yeah. They sound like very simple things, but we can sort of have a tendency to just kind of push on. Life continues, stay busy, keep going. Yet nature is telling us, you know what? You need to dive into trying to embody the elements that will balance fire, namely space, water, and earth, particularly. So we're thinking about when we are approaching our day-to-day lives, we're thinking about embodying and bringing the qualities of nourishment that we get from water and earth, the qualities of softness that also come from water, the expansiveness that we feel when we are in wide open spaces, and really just sort of feeling how those elements can pacify what is often a very sharp and penetrating and in many ways fierce element, which, as I say, for those of us of dominant Pitta dosha, can get a little bit out of control. We're the ones that don't love lying in the sun, and Ayurveda very much suggests that, we protect ourselves. Through, for example, self-massage, coconut oil massage, first thing in the morning before you get in the shower. Coconut is very nourishing. It's very cooling.
Before the shower, this is news to me. I always thought it's after. Tell us more about why before.
Well, because when we think about sealing in the oil in the skin, and also so that it doesn't just wipe off on your clothes, that is a very effective way of doing it, actually, by putting it on before we get in the shower. Okay. And furthermore, it's good to do a little body brushing, although less so in the summer. It's much more of a springtime kapha detoxification practice. So it's good to maybe do that gently, and then just a very long strokes along the arms, along the legs, down the back of the legs. Circular, clockwise only around the abdomen always, neck, into the hair. That is a really beautiful way to just give your skin that nourishing layer before you head outside. Lying in the sun, not recommended by Ayurveda, especially when it's very hot. Protecting the eyes, they are pitta-related organs. So people, again, with that rising fire element within them will often find that they have eye sensitivity. Obviously protecting the head. Places where we find heat contained within the body are the liver, the small intestine, both pitta-related organs. Likewise, heat rises, so we'll feel it in our heads. So it's about taking the intensity out of activities. That furthermore then weaves into our yoga practice. So when we think about practicing yoga in the summertime, and or when we're trying to pacify pitta dosha, we are thinking about, making sure, first of all, that we approach our yoga practice with a cool attitude. It's not about making it a workout. It's about bringing down that rajas, the guna that's associated with agitation. Making sure we have a cool space, air circulating, and really favoring practices that are going to be all of those words that you so enjoyed, fluid. So we're going to be moving in and out of postures. You're going to be staying and holding postures in an intense way. You're going to be looking to favor things like forward folds that immediately quiet the frontal brain, that can also access those organs. We need to also think about our yoga practice, how it affects us internally, not just from a sort of external perspective. Twists.
Twist, that's surprising.
What's that?
Shift this conversation. That's where I want to go.
Okay.
Ooh. It says okay, now I'm back. That's where I wanted to go, about asana. It's a great transition. So asana specifically that you think of for pacifying pitta. I'm surprised you say twists. Because twists, when I do a lot of twisting, I feel heat releasing. So talk to us more about what poses you love for cooling pitta fire.
Yeah, so twists are one for that very reason, because you're accessing these major organs, particularly the liver and the small intestine in the body, but particularly expansive twists. So yes, your seated twist, good, but even better to be doing your Ardha Chandrasana, for example. So standing twist, your Trikonasana as well, because you can really open up the side plane as well, just to create more space for your internal organs. Furthermore, as I say, I mentioned forward folds, particularly seated forward folds, Paschimottanasana. The other thing to think about as well is really kind of engaging with the areas of the subtle body that will bring in those elements that can pacify fire. So the earth and the water connected chakras as well. So your seated hip openers, anything that is hip opening, Upavishta Konasana, beautiful, super grounding, and a forward fold as well to keep the mind. And pitta types tend to have very sharp minds, so they find, for example, they'll find meditation easier effectively, but in many ways it's done in a very goal-oriented way. So it's about bringing that intensity down and just becoming more in your body as well, which again yogasana is very effective at doing. I guess other practices are moon salutations, generally more lunar, which can be a challenge, for those types just want to go for it. It's like so.
I was telling my man this morning, I was talking to him that we were going to have this conversation, and he was saying, what are the doshas? Even though I've told him a million times, I was like trying to explain to him quickly the doshas. And I used a phrase that I've heard mom say so many times, but she says, all the trouble in the world that ever happened was caused by pittas, because kaphas can't get off the couch and vatas can't find their keys. So
it's so true. I mean, it's so true. And it's all about the balance, you know, because fire is that transformative element, you know, from our intelligence to our metabolism, you know, that is what is in charge, but it's keeping a balance, you know. Balanced pitta is phenomenal at getting things done, but you know, it's about taking that passion and making sure it has compassion. You know, pitta types really need to try and cultivate those types of softer emotions, because you know, when exacerbated, which is why in summer it is so important to tend to this fire. You know, I'm a pitta type myself. I know, you know, it's really important to bring it down. It's easy to be like, whoa, there's loads more sunlight, let's go out and do loads. And then you end up exhausted and sunburned and So I guess the other, you know, I mentioned the lunar practices, Chandra Namaskar, which is possibly not as well known as the Surya Namaskar practices, but it's also a really subtle and beautiful sequences, you know, the 14 sequences that correlate to the phases of the moon, and just really bringing in that kind of flow of, we were discussing this on our retreat, of soma, you know, that really regenerative, beautiful, exactly, hypnotic, you know, vibe into your practice. And then I guess also on the pranayama as well.
So I want to send people to your newsletter. You've written about all of these practices. Kate Smith Jamison, you are a treasure trove of yoga and Ayurveda. I'm going to put the link below to subscribe. So here's your homework. Those of you who are watching, subscribe to Kate's newsletter, subscribe to my new YouTube channel, and read some of her tips, and let us know in the comments if you have tried any of these Ayurveda summer self-care tips, and let us know how it's going. All right. Namaste, Kate. Thank you so much.